Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting and inspiring episode of On Location with Zara Durrani, brought to you by StoryHive. Currently, we're here in Yaletown on location at Dwell Living, and joining me is someone who I got to meet over the summer to help me with my acting and to get coaching, and I've gotten to know him. Every session that I would leave, he would leave me feeling very inspired, empowered, and not just as an actor, but as an artist, as a human being, as a self-employed individual. Our conversations about being an artist in Vancouver, how to manage your time, talking about burnout. He is a very successful actor, coaches acting, is a successful TV host. You may recognize him from MTV Canada. I'm talking about none other than Matthew Kevin Anderson, who made time for us today. He's been really, really busy, and he also graces lots of local stages, so you'll catch him whether doing red carpet events or emceeing events. He's really busy, very successful, and we love your outfit.
Thank you.
We're kind of like matching over here.
Yeah, you look amazing as well. That was an amazing intro. Thank you so much. I feel very accomplished right now.
You are totally accomplished, my friend.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to know you. I think as an artist, as a human being in Vancouver, I'm surprised our paths never cross. But
yeah, that's true.
every conversation that I have, I knew I wanted to share this with our audience because I find you truly inspiring. You know,
I feel the same way. I feel like every time you and I sit down to work on a project or sit down and have coffee and just talk about the industry, our lives, where our goals are taking us, I always walk away. We both talked about this the other day. I walk away feeling very full, you know, like energized and ready to kind of go out and you know, take on the world. So I'm very grateful that you brought me on here. Amazing location too. Like, it looks absolutely awesome here. So this is really cool.
great minds, like great vibes, and you know, you guys are also amazing. We really appreciate you tuning in and watching. And you know, I feel so blessed to have this opportunity to bring people who are in our community here in Vancouver to have these conversations, because whether you're an artist, an actor, a filmmaker, or an engineer, or a mom at home, because I think that the conversations you and I have and some of the other guests we've had on here, everyone can benefit from hearing them. So with everyone, I like to talk about how they got started. Like, let's hit rewind.
Oh my gosh.
I want to talk about, like, was this the journey you always knew you were going to be an artist? Did you always know you were going to be in front of the cameras, on the red carpets? Like, you started as a host.
I mean, I started as a host, but before that, I was in, you know, Wizard of Oz in grade 3. I definitely think I always leaned towards the arts. I was always really interested in comics and drawing when I was a kid. I liked singing, and we did Fantasia and we did Wizard of Oz when I was in grade 3, going to one of the schools that I went to, and performing was something that I just got a lot of excitement out of, and I think I've always been pretty performative. And I don't think I understood that it could be a career until one day I was sitting at home. My sister went to Kits High, Ryan Reynolds, Josh Jackson. We have a lot of people who have come out of Vancouver. I went to Point Grey, you know, Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg. So we were sitting one day. I'm younger than my sister. We're watching TV, and she looks at the TV and she goes, "Oh, I go to high school with that guy." And that was the first time when I sort of connected the dots of, like, oh, I could do that. Like, doing theater or musicals at my school play or whatever, I didn't equate that to potentially becoming Star Wars one day, you know. And I went and saw Return of the Jedi like 10 times in the theaters. I loved Star Wars, and I would say that's probably one of the things. I hear that a lot. A lot of people of my generation were inspired by those films because it was so fantastical, and it was just like a whole other world, you know. And then to realize, wait a minute, I could potentially do that that was sort of the moment that it clicked, and then I started thinking about it as like an actual career path.
Now, you mentioned Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Like, do you sometimes hear you could be like related to him?
Not at all. Oh my gosh, that's very kind, but he is
like
way more handsome
It's
and
the glasses.
buff.
It's the glasses.
I'll take
Come
it right now. But
on,
yes,
come
that's
on.
very, very, very sweet of you. Thank you.
So how did you go from, it's interesting you mentioned like Wizard of Oz and as soon as you said grade 3, my ears kind of like pricked a little bit because in Pakistan, that's where I'm from, in kindergarten, I was performing.
Amazing.
And it's so bizarre, the feeling that I got when I was on a stage. Because in my day-to-day, I was like a friendly kid, but there was something like electricity inside of my body coursing through my veins. And like, and I secretly wish that the person would either get sick. I know that sounds terrible. I was a little kid, because I was the understudy.
You were taking people out of the knees?
No. I memorized all the lines of like the number
Amazing.
one, who was the teacher's kid.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, and happened to be, her name was,
Nepotism?
I know.
That's so weird. That's never happens.
And her name was also Zara, and I was like, please. Can you believe a kid in kindergarten and I remember like, I was like, they're like, okay, this person's sick. Like, I was like, I know all the lines. I went up there and I have all these faces and just like something.
There's an energy.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of individuals I brought on the show and had the conversations with, the bug was planted of performing from a young age. So it sounds like that is what it was like for you. Then what was your journey like? Did you go to school? Did you study something else? Did you study film and television? What did you do?
Yeah, I ended up going to film school in Vancouver, and then right out of film school, I ended up landing MTV.
Woo!
It was one of my first sort of major auditions, and not acting, right? But very personality driven, and there was just all these things, the world's wild, right? Like the universe sort of like lines up for you, whatever you believe and whatever you call the universe. Some people call it God, some people call it different things, but I just had all these little things. Like I got out of film school, my sister's friend was working at an agency, so they were like, oh, just come down and see. And I knew her, so it was really easy. And then went down and she introduced me to some agents. Someone signed me. And then one of my first auditions went in. It was a series of auditions. And the last callback for the hosting job, I was doing streeters, like interviewing people on the street. And they had brought these random teenage girls off the street. And one of them happened to be my friend's little sister. And she was the outspoken one. So at the end of the interviews, the producers went and talked to them, and they're like, so who do you like? And she was like, Matt's the best. Matt's so great. And then the other girl was like, yeah, Matt's great too. She was just following her lead. And that was kind of the thing that like tipped it over in my favor, and I ended up booking the job. I did that for several years, and it was an amazing experience, interviewing every band that came through Vancouver, and going to amazing concerts and just really like cutting my teeth.
And how old were you at the time?
I mean, early 20s. Like I just got out of film school. So yeah, I think it was like 20.
What a blessing, but it's also like you believing in yourself and stepping up. There's that gift of like, I think this is a conversation I have with several people. It's like an opportunity gets presented. You could be like, let me think about it. I don't know. Versus you're like, yeah, I'm just going to put myself out there, like see what happens. And universe does favor the bold.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been listening to a lot of really interesting interviews. I just listened to the Armchair Expert with the gentleman who created Airbnb. And then there's another gentleman who created a water brand called Liquid Death. And they're talking about these brands that obviously are hugely successful, and how there's like a little bit of naivete, especially at a certain age when you're young and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna go for this. There isn't that level of like, oh, it has to be done this way and you should follow these rules. Like I was fresh out of film school. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't hosted a top 10 video countdown show before, but I just kind of went in there and started making stuff up about J-Lo, and they thought that was hilarious.
Really?
And that I could improv.
Tell me.
I just made made it my own. I just
Yeah.
showed up and I just made it my own, and I changed the script, and they thought that just showed that I was able to think on my feet, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what I was doing in a weird way, so I just went for it.
And I guess as an actor, you could improv. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you probably compared to someone else who was like a host, you know, the broadcasting was just their only thing. But when you're studied acting, your voice, that's something I compliment you a lot on, is like when I see you on stage and when I'm next to Matt, I gotta make sure I'm on my voice. I'm like literally
Julian keeps turning my mic down because I get so loud.
It's good for me. It's really, truly good for me. I have a red carpet gig coming up on Friday, but when I'm taping with you or in the room with you, I like how you command. I was saying this the other day, that not in a menacing way, in this encompassing but also entertaining, because as a host, as an MC, as the red carpet person, as here, we have to make sure that people can feel comfortable while at the same time show, hey,
You have to have confidence and own the space,
yeah,
right?
no,
Yeah.
I'm so happy we connected, we met. Like, you know, I'm learning so much from you. So let's talk about from there, MTV. Actually, I want to backtrack a bit. Tell me about some of these experiences of like interviewing like some of the top bands coming into town.
Oh, wow. It was amazing. I mean,
Name drop.
yeah, I mean, this is, you know, a few years ago now, but you know, Moby and Nelly, like they were all like on the top, you know, like
getting
their
hot in
videos,
here.
yeah, their videos were on play all the time, and I'm a huge music fan, so to be able to meet people like that, research them, you know, ask them interesting questions. And again, it's like this, you're just really getting into conversations with people, and you're getting to know people that inspire you, are doing really exciting things. You know, I got to interview the lead guitarist from Weezer, and they were like coming into their, you know, like they'd been performing for a while, and I had some questions that I like to ask, like what's been the biggest surprise? Like, you guys have been making music for like, you know, over 10 years now. Did you ever expect it to go this long? And like, what's been the biggest surprise of it all, you know? So I loved hearing everybody at different stages in their careers. One of my first interviews was Avril Lavigne.
No!
She they were doing a free show at the Commodore because she didn't have like her stage presence nailed down yet. And so she did a free all ages show at the Commodore, and it was at like 3 p.m, and I interviewed her backstage.
Is this before Skater Boy?
Oh man, like this was like right before she launched. Way before that. Destiny's Child was also one of my first interviews.
No!
Beyonce said she liked my jacket. I was like, oh,
No!
I'm a huge Beyonce fan. We also have the same birthday. Shout
No,
out Queen Bee.
Virgo.
Yeah, September 4th.
The Virgo season. Oh my,
Uh-huh.
that is too cool. Okay, I want to talk about Beyonce. Big Beyonce fan.
I love Beyonce.
Okay, so Michelle, Kelly, like what was it like? What era is this?
It was
this,
just
like,
three of them. I'll tell you what, this
Okay.
was such a wild experience because we were backstage before their concert at Rogers Arena, and I just hadn't, again, this was one of my first interviews, and I hadn't seen that sort of behind the scenes situation before. So we come in and it's kind of a junket. They're sitting in these chairs and people are coming in and interviewing them. We do our interview. We only ask like, I don't know, 3 or 4 questions, right? It's pretty quick. And then I sit there as they accept like 20 awards. It was insane. They're like, okay, next award. And they would like bring in an award, or they're like, this is for some European thing. And they'd just be like, hey guys, thanks so much. Sorry we can't be there. We really appreciate it. And it was just like award after award after award. And I'm like, they're about to go on stage. They just accepted like 10 awards and did 5 interviews. The job is so wild when you're at that level and you're dealing with that level of stardom. And that's even before she went solo. Like, she's a mega star. And I just hadn't seen that, you know.
That level of fame.
Yeah, you think about, you'd watch like the MTV Music Awards and they're all there and they're accepting awards, but there's award shows like that happening all over the world and they were winning everything. So just being in that, around that level of stardom was really was really interesting and eye-opening.
Do you remember what you asked them? And also, as you're mentioning this, I recently just started watching Robbie Williams' docu-series because I finished the Beckham, which I super loved.
Yeah.
And I was a Robbie Williams fan more so than Take That.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was very curious. So it's kind of same-ish era.
And
he talks about being thrusted into the fame and how he was not prepared, you know, and you know all the issues that he had around that, and
I can't imagine. It's just a different level, and I mean now with social media as well, like it's shifted. I think part of it, there's a positive aspect to that because the era of like Britney Spears, again, that was a big part of when I was doing the Top 10 show. It was Britney Spears, it was, you know, Backstreet Boys, it was NSYNC, like all that stuff was really popping off.
The 2000s.
And she was like getting swarmed by paparazzi. You don't really see that anymore as much. And I think that's a positive thing, but also it's because everyone has it on their phone now, right? So, you know, there's been shifts and the industry's changed, and yeah, it's interesting to see. I just watched a show called Dave, which is by Lil Dicky, and he writes and creates everything himself, very much like Jared Kiso, who does Letterkenny, and Shoresy, shout out. You know, these people who are creating their own shows, you know, Donald Glover with Atlanta as well. He does an episode where he is single and he gets on like, you know, Hinge or it's Raya in LA.
I say that because I'm
and he
on
links
it.
up with Doja Cat, and then you go into the day in the life of Doja Cat and you see like her phone and like all the stuff that she has to do to keep up with it. And again, it's sort of like looking behind the curtain a little bit, and I think everyone just thinks it's all glamour, which it is, but it's really a lot of hard work and it's non-stop hustle. Even when you get to that level, you think it's going to get easier. It's just a different level of problems or things that you're dealing with, and it's a lot.
Yeah, I watched like Lady Gaga's documentary and Taylor Swift's, but the most recent that I'm seeing right now is this docu-series with Robbie Williams. And he talks about, you know, how going from city to city, the radio appearances, TV appearances, photo shoots, and, you know, they're giving him awards and he's just like, it's another thing he'll hold. And in between, you know, of course, his substance abuse and all of that he's really, really open about. But he talks about, like, I think he was 17 or 16 when he was in Take That. He was the baby of the group, and how all of that affected him. And I'm really glad that they're openly talking about these issues, and especially, you know, these male pop stars or even David Beckham, how he talks about his life and his struggles and struggles in their marriage. I think it's really good because they're opening up the doors a little bit and showing, you know, things that they've gone through themselves.
Yeah, I think we're definitely coming out of a, you know, coming out of a time where men were like, push emotion down and, you know, just deal and like work and provide and don't complain and work till you fall over, essentially, you know, and talking about all that stuff was not done. And I think now we're coming to a place where that is, you know, something that men are going to therapy and men are learning to be more emotionally intelligent, and hopefully that will benefit their children, their relationships with their partners, and their relationships with themselves. And yeah, it's definitely I think this is a very good trajectory for men personally.
Yeah, no, very well stated. And this is a conversation I've had with Alex Ponowick, like one of our mutual friends, and other guys who are athletes who I've had on the show, and you know how they're talking about seeing a therapist or getting emotional even on the show. And I'm just like, man, and especially to see like a hetero male like really digging deep, and especially the ones who are not artists, you know, who are the working out, like the athletes and the dudes, and you know, like of course artists, as an actor, as a performer, you're more in touch than someone else. But it's really good, and you know, it starts from like the David Beckhams and the Robbie Williams and those folks going up on Netflix and different platforms and talking about, hey, I'm seeking help, I'm working on myself, and I have these demons and these things that I'm overcoming.
100%. They're leading the charge, and they're having open conversations where people who see media and think of those people in a certain light, now they're going, oh, I think David Beckham's cool. If he's doing that, maybe that's something that I should look into as well. You know what I mean? I think it's super important. And I mean, you know, we're just learning more and more about what is good for us, right? And hopefully taking note and like working towards bettering ourselves as humans, you know. I don't know if social media is always necessarily the most healthy thing for us, but you know, there's give and take, right? We're all just doing the best we can. I know. Cheers to social media.
Yes, yes. No, but I completely agree, because I was having a conversation earlier with a hypnotherapist who's been my coach for a long time.
Amazing.
And, you know, just like talking about, he's helped me quite a bit. I really believe in the power of subconscious mind and like overcoming my own ideas of like what is success, or my family's ideas that are internalized, or my cultural identity that I internalized, that this is the only level I can go to, or that being successful as a woman means this, or at this age I need to have this, but kind of redefining that, and to be like, you know, at 41 I can, you know, it means something else to me what I thought it may mean at 20 something. So I want to, you know, we'll come back to the pop stars and everything. You know, we Google you, we IMDb you, and the look on your face. It's like your resume is Matt is like this big. It's like over almost 100, you know, credits.
Yeah.
So it's like how did you transition from, like, you know, you went to film school, you were then on MTV, you're interviewing all the biggest stars of the world, and then how do you decide that, okay, now I'm gonna focus back into acting? And what has that journey been like over the last 15 years?
A long journey and an interesting one. And, you know, I am a huge subscriber to like mentorship. I think having a mentor is so amazing and important to people. And I didn't necessarily have a really, really strong sort of mentor in my early stages of my career. So I kind of made every mistake in the book and did everything kind of the hard way and sort of fumbled my way into my career. And, you know, I'm now in a position where I'm able to sort of help other people navigate some of those choppy waters a bit more smoothly, and maybe hop over some of the hurdles that I crashed into head first. But yeah, I mean, at some point, moved down to LA and was spending time in LA, and was like, I didn't go to film school to be a host. That sort of happened, and I love it, but I really do want to focus on acting, and started refocusing my energies into that space. And it took time for me to almost turn the hosting personality part off and sort of like really start focusing on acting. And it was really only until I started training really regularly with a coach
in LA,
in Vancouver first, and then in LA, and then, you know, I learned a lot once I moved down to LA, and you see how big the industry is down there, how many actors there are, especially comparatively to Vancouver. Vancouver is such a small market, right? Los Angeles is like times 1,000. So everything you do here, there, it's just bigger and more. And so for you to sort of rise above all the noise and get noticed, you have to work really, really hard. And I ended up in an acting studio down there where there was a lot of working actors. I was like, okay, this is a place where everyone's working, and this is the right environment to be in, and these are the people. Stan Kirsch, who, you know, sadly passed away, but shout out to Stan Kirsch and Stan Kirsch Studios, and they helped a lot of people with their careers, and you know, they're still operating in Vancouver, and it's a great place to learn. Yeah, I learned a lot down there, and when I came back to Vancouver, I took that sort of American intensity and energy, and I brought that back to the Vancouver market here, and that's really when I feel like things started taking off for me in Vancouver, for sure.
I certainly feel like from our interactions, you have that LA, the American kind of mindset. Like when I was in Paris, people used to say to me, because I would like want to talk about work when I'm, doing coffees and whatever. They're like, okay, like, do some, like, you have to stop being so American. You, sit to enjoy your cafe and like relax. Why are you so intense,
The Europeans have it dialed. They really understand, live to work, not work to live, or whatever it is. Yeah.
But I think that's something I really enjoy about your personality. It's like the drive that you have. I like having those friends, just like my camera op editor Julian, who's got severe jet lag because he just got in from Japan.
And he's here working with us. So cheers to Julian.
Cheers. He's been, bringing us the coffee, drinking his espresso.
Yeah.
So tell me about, one of the things you and I talk a lot about is that inner drive, because being an artist, because you're an actor, you're an in-demand actor, you're pinned for a job, we'll talk about it after you've done working on it. You were working on a film like last week, you were coaching clients today as an actor. You do voice work, and in the meanwhile, you're here doing interviews, and you're on many stages as a host and doing City Lights on Novus. How do you manage your time, and how do you inspire yourself? Like, how do you bring that balance?
I mean, I'm like a hyper extrovert, so I love people and I love connecting with people, and I love that my job is really people focused. So my drive to do what I do, like I just love what I do so much, and I wake up every morning and I still would rather be on a set, or would rather be working on a script, or working with an actor, breaking down a script. I just love this so much that I'd rather be doing that than anything else during the day. So as long as I still have that drive, I'm always going to be pushing forward. And there's so many, I think, again, when you first start out, you think of acting as like there's so many avenues in the film industry and the entertainment industry. There's so many things. Like when I went to film school, no one even talked to me about hosting, and I didn't even realize hosting was like a potential job, right? Voiceover work, writing, I've been writing and selling scripts, directing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look at everybody, look at the people who are really killing it in the industry right now. I mean, again, going back to Ryan Reynolds, the diversity, the different things that they're doing. He's buying football clubs. He's got Mint Mobile that he just sold. Everyone's getting into
aviation
a liquor.
gin.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So it's using this as a platform to do other things, but there's so many things that you can do. For me, I was always really inspired by Seth Rogen. I thought it was so cool that he created sort of a group of friends that he was always working with. I love working with my friends and connecting with people that I know, right? And helping each other and raising each other up and supporting each other and creating with each other. I mean, art is a challenging thing to make into a career, and you have to be open to doing whatever it takes to stay in the game and stay sharp and stay, inspired and keep the lights on ultimately. So, I think the hosting thing sort of was like, oh, weird. This is this weird sort of detour that I took. And then I started going, oh, there's this whole other world to entertainment. And then you start going down the acting path and you start learning about all these different jobs that you can do on a set that are involved in film and producing, and it's all tied into the same thing, and it's all exciting and cool and creative. It's just hyper creative. So I also feel like the more I learn about all these facets of the industry, the better I am as an actor. And also the better I am as a writer or a director potentially, because I understand what all those different sort of like positions do, and I can see how an edit's going to come together because I know about editing, and I can understand when I'm writing a script, from an acting point of view, like I hate a lot of expositional dialogue, so I can like trim that down and change the way I write a scene based on what I know as an actor, so it all sort of feeds the beast, right? And it's all really fun, and it's exciting to use your mind in different ways and learn about different parts of the industry. So I do a lot of things.
That's truly amazing. And I think I would also love to hear this from you, because a year or so ago, like I'm 41 now. So last year I turned 40. Before that, coming up to turning 40, I had this like internal sort of pressure around what it means now to be 40. Like how I need to be like this adult.
No, yeah,
you
totally.
know, who's kind of like square, who's kind of like has this salary job with these benefits and which I'm very grateful for. I had that, my COVID like job, but I woke up one day like a month and a bit after my birthday, and I swear to God, I was like, if I continue to stay here, I'm gonna get sick. I could just feel it inside of my body. And I think I would love to hear it from you, because you're obviously quintessential like artist, like you're doing so many different things. I didn't even know about the writing, and you know, you're coaching, you're literally all parts of being an artist and a performer. Now I'm like super leaned into that this is my path. Like I have to do my heart's calling, which is, you know, I feel so grateful and blessed that StoryHive gives me this opportunity, and Julian and guests, I get to have guests like yourself who are, you know, filling up my heart. Like I'm gonna go home this evening and be like, oh my God, I got to have this conversation and share it with our audience, get inspired myself, and hopefully inspire them as well. But it took me really taking that leap again, even though I'd been a freelance artist for so long. But sometimes there's that inner fear of, okay, time to be an adult and be serious and be like, you know, have like a job, you know? Like, do you ever?
But you have such a job. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you hustle so hard. Like, you have a job. You do it on your own terms. You're your own boss. You hustle so hard, you know? Sometimes I'm like, it would probably be nice to just like clock out at 5 and just turn my brain off. Like, I can't do that. My brain is going, I work, you know, 8 days a week, right? But I guess that's why they say love what you do, because then it doesn't feel like work. And we were talking about sort of like problems before, and I didn't mean to say it's a different set of problems when you get to another level. It's just that like life is all like obstacles and problems, and how are we going to achieve like these things that we want to do. But when you're in a field that you care about, they're problems that you want to solve. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay, I'm excited to solve this set of problems and issues, instead of like being in a job that you hate and then having to solve all these problems or get over these obstacles that you don't even care about getting over, you know? So yeah, I mean, what we do is challenging. It's not easy. And I think people see Instagram, or people see, you know, ET Canada, RIP, and they, you know, they see sort of the fun glamour side, but it's a lot of really hard work. But also, that's what I called the double down. I think a lot of artists have moments, sometimes one, sometimes multiple, when they're like, is this really what I'm doing right now? And you kind of either stop or you double down and you commit even more. And I had one of those moments early on in my career. I got hooked up with a job interview to do like ad sales for like Rogers, like on radio and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. And they were like, well, if you take this job, we're going to put you into these courses and we're going to like work you really hard because you need to do this, this, and this. And I was like, if I just took that mentality and applied it to my acting and just like doubled down on what I was doing and worked even harder, it would be the same thing. So why don't I just stick in my lane and just work even more? And that's really one of those turning points where my career started shifting into a different direction, for sure.
I relate to that so much because that's exactly what I went through leading up to like leaving the JOB that I had, which I'm very grateful for. But I was like, all this energy and this stress and the learning curve I'm going through, I can put the same into for myself, you know, whether it is designing my website or my social media or the content creation, like putting that energy into me. And of course the universe has to align. You have to have the gift and then putting in the hard work. And just like you said, everyone sees like the highlight reel, the red carpet and the photos and the Instagram post or the LinkedIn post. But you know, when you're up till 1 a.m. working, or when you're in a different country, Paris, where I just got back from France, I was sick the whole time, but I had all this content to shoot and all these photo shoots and videos to do.
And you did amazing, by the way. I mean, that content is beautiful. It looks amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it's like my clients were, I was like, seriously, dude, I was sick the whole time. But I'm like, no, I'm working for me. You know, there was no agent. It was everything that I got for myself. So I would love to hear from you, because you sound like a very disciplined and dedicated individual, dedicated to your craft, but not just to yourself. Also, you give a lot out, you know, from the interactions that I've had with you and getting to know you over the summertime, dropping in on your class. You give a lot out. How do you replenish yourself?
That's a great question. There was a time where I wasn't, and then, I mean, we talked about that. I kind of hit burnout. I had my first, I just hit a wall, and I really had to take a step back and start focusing. We've talked about 80-20, you know, and I think I was just trying to there's this thing called the 80-20 principle. You can see it, it comes up everywhere, right? But, you know, if you own a store, like this beautiful store, 20% of your customers who come in, they're gonna buy 80% of the stuff and bring in 80% of the revenue, and then you're going to have the other 80% who kind of come in and look at stuff and maybe buy a candle and leave, right? So start focusing on who that 20% is, because they're going to bring you 80% of your revenue, but you can start applying that to everywhere, right? So I started, after I sort of hit a wall, I started sitting down and going, okay, like, what's the 20% that I'm doing that's really moving the needle, that's fulfilling me, that's helping my career, helping other people? Like, what is the 20% that I really need to focus on, and how can I let go of the other 80%? How can I really start focusing on, I mean, my mornings became very important to me. I try not to do much before 10 a.m. and I wake up and I don't touch my phone, and I meditate first thing, and then I journal, and then I go for a workout. I can't accomplish that every single morning, but that is what I strive for every morning, is to wake up, not get on the phone right away, meditate. I do Transcendental TM. And then I journal, you know, like morning pages from The Artist's Way or gratitude journal, whatever it is. I'll just write whatever's on my mind that morning for about, I don't know, 10 minutes, and then I get up and I do my workout.
And how long have you been doing this for?
Gosh, it's been like 4 years now, maybe 4, and it's just, it helps you ground yourself, especially at the beginning of the day, and just like get yourself set up right before you just like wake up, check your phone, run and just like hop onto the hamster wheel and just off you go without really like slowing down and like taking your steps with intention and consciously. Because I find there's an amazing book. We talk about books a lot. One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Charles Duhigg wrote another one called, I think it's called The Science of Habit. Learning about habits, most people are just waking up every day and running through a series of habits that they've been building since they were kids. And most people are on autopilot. You're not actually thinking about what you're doing when you wake up in the morning. You're like, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I get my coffee, I go to work, I come home, I make dinner, I watch a TV show, and I go to bed. And you're just on autopilot. So really slowing down and trying to do everything you do during the day with intention and like consciously, and really starting to look at some of what those habits are and eliminating some of the habits that aren't serving you, and you know, focusing on the 20% of habits that are really servicing your experience. Like that stuff, it really helped me sort of slow down and focus on what's important. And then that started creating more space for me to get more creative, to have more time to write, to have more time to connect with my family. My parents are getting older. My mom just lost her twin sister, and like, you know, all that stuff is just becoming more important than like, I'm the busiest guy in Vancouver, which for a while was the most important thing to me, and then I burnt out. That was a really long answer to your question.
No, I love that, because these are the conversations that we were having when I first met you. And you know, and you would be like, have a spa day or a spa weekend. And every
Yeah.
time you would see me, you'd be like, how you doing? I'm like exhausted.
Yeah, you're like, I'm sick, and I'm like, I just got to get to that thing, and I'm like, girl, like, you need to take a break. You need to breathe. Yeah, 100%. Balance is everything.
Yeah, and it's just so important to have those, and I get it because I think I am like the same of what you were saying, that the busy thing. What am I doing? How much in demand I am? Because I think as a performer, as a female, as like, you know, like performer, I would say period, there's that thing, you don't know what's gonna happen. So sometimes it's almost like working from a place of fear versus like releasing,
1000%, yeah.
versus like releasing that and being like, that abundance mindset. That's something you and I have talked about quite a bit, is like, it's okay to relax. Like, to be honest, to be quite honest, I sometimes feel guilty when I do nothing.
Yeah.
I've told you this.
Yeah.
Like, I had 1 week after coming back from Paris, like, I was kind of filled with shame and guilt because I'm like, I'm just lounging around.
That's crazy.
Letting myself like sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning.
Which is good. But then also, you know, again, like if you're feeling like I'm not doing anything, without sounding weird, you could add some structure to your downtime, you know, like making sure you're going to yoga, making sure you're going for a walk. I'm going to connect with someone who's important to me. You know what I mean? You can still build some, because like that's the other thing. It's once you create that time, what are you going to do with it? I mean, that's Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week all day, right? Like, yes, you have to do these things to create this time for yourself, but then you also have to realize or decide what you're going to do with that time, because you can't create that space and then just sit there like, what am I doing with myself? You know what I mean? Because that can also create shame. Like, you don't want to be feeling shame and stuff like that in that time.
I mean, I was working out and doing my aerial yoga and like all that kind of jazz.
Aerial yoga.
Yeah, it's like silks. You're hanging upside
amazing.
down.
I didn't know you did that.
Oh yeah, it's like literally.
That's
next
so cool.
door. Yeah, and I would, even for a dude, like there's been some guys who come to the class, mostly women. I think it's great for guys to come because it's like all filled with women. But it was great because it gets me out of my head. Because when you're hanging upside down, your legs are in the air, your head is below, honey, you don't have time to be thinking of like, this person said this and I gotta be upset at them. All the blood is coming down to my brain. I have to focus on my breathing. I have my core active, and it really helps with my spine because it helps my neck get super tight, you know, from like, you know, all the work that we do and getting 10 steps. So now what I'm doing for self-care is daily baths.
Nice.
Like literally daily. This is gonna sound a little bit crazy and maybe TMI. I'll be on my computer doing emails 11 o'clock at night or sometimes 10 in the morning in the bathtub. Because I'm like, then my body gets to relax and I'm getting a job done.
Yeah.
I should be just like in the
I was
bath,
like, what do you do? Do you listen to music or read a romance novel? You're like, I'm working, but I'm in the bathtub. Trying not to electrocute myself.
I did drop my phone like a week or something ago.
Oh my gosh.
But I do read often in the bathtub, and I do find I was having actually a conversation with a girlfriend who's just got back home from like Oxford University. She did a management course, and you know, she's talking about how she didn't realize, because she's a creative, she's a producer, that you know, she thought it's going to be this stuffy thing of going to Oxford and doing this management course, but how it really got her in touch with her creative side, her more like inner child, you know, which as performers, we get to be in touch and heal and grow from that. I want to talk a bit more about your acting. So, like, you know, we've talked about, you know, the inner work, how you're grounding yourself, and thank you for sharing Julia Cameron, Artist Way. I was just talking about it earlier, like such a fan of Julia and Artist Pages. I'm on a better path, better wavelength when I do my morning pages. I don't do it religiously, but when I do it, it's like I'm just more grounded in my body. This is out, you know?
It's amazing,
This is out.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to like pinpoint because you have such a big body of work, but like tell me some moments on set that you had, that you arrived, you got in your trailer or in your wardrobe or in hair and makeup, that you're like, oh my God, someone pinched me or like slapped me. Is this my life? I get to be on this show. I get to be this character. I'm working next to this person. Like, OMG. Like, tell me about some of those moments you've had in your career.
I mean, I've been really lucky. I've had many moments, you know. Again, and it sort of shifts throughout, at least for myself personally, it has shifted throughout my career about like what my goals are or what my intention is going into work. And, you know, especially right now, what's really interesting is as I said before, being able to connect and create with friends and people that I care about. I mean, that's really the most fun. I had, in 2021, I was just having a crazy year. So busy, like crazy in a great way, like just tons of work was coming in and everything I was shooting was out of town. So I was shooting a show on the island in Parksville, and then I was shooting like an action movie that was sort of like a romance show, and then I was shooting like an action movie in town. And I remember coming out of set one day and the sun was shining, it was starting to set, and it was an absolutely beautiful evening, and I was walking to my car past this field, and I just stopped and tried to take a moment and really absorb what was happening and like the frequency that I was like operating at in that moment, you know, and just remind myself to just really soak it up and enjoy it and be in the moment, because it was just one of those moments. I can't remember what had happened that day. It was just a feeling of like walking out of set. I'd just finished this great job. I was working on this other job, and I was just, this is exactly where I want to be, and just acknowledge that for a moment and be grateful about it. And then also like, how do I, you know, it's interesting because you're like, how do I hold on to this feeling?
Bottle it
you know?
up.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can, you know, ultimately everything shifts, right? So you probably can't. So then it's just about really acknowledging it when it's happening and really enjoying the moment, because you can't hold on to it. That's the rub. But you can appreciate it when it's happening. And I think that's really important.
I feel like when you talk, Matt, like mindfulness seems to be something that comes to my mind, is that you seem very, you know, connected, and like, you know, not just, I've interviewed a lot of actors, like, you know, doing maybe not musicians and Beyonces, but like, you know, local actors here, like the UBCP Actor Awards and all that red carpet stuff. You know, I did some stuff for ET and different shows, but I feel like some of the people who are like, I interviewed Ben Ratner like a little while ago.
Ben Emmanuel.
Yes, Ben Emmanuel. I know he changed his name. I know, I know. Like that was like a thing we talked about as well. But it just rolls
awesome.
off my tongue.
I know. It's years of retraining.
Yes, it rolls off my. But I feel like the people who have had that like level of success, like Alex Ponovic, and like you, as you're talking about this, there seems to be that interconnectedness and understanding the impermanence of this, while at the same time showing up and doing the work, and then maybe letting go of the results.
Oh yes, very well said. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess sometimes I watch the stuff that I do, and I remember when I was early on, I remember people saying that they don't watch their work as much. And I mean, for me, it's the moment that I'm in the thing, doing the thing, and then you learn to just let it go. I find the more I'm able to do that, the more I'm able to stay in the moment and just kind of like go on to the next thing. I forget that I shoot stuff sometimes, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that thing I did a year and a half ago is now coming out and people are gonna actually see it. I hope it's good, you know what I mean? But you almost forget because you move on to the next thing and you do let it go. But I think when you're younger, you're holding on to everything so tight and you want everything to be a certain way and you have expectations. And the older I've gotten, I've learned that like, open palm, like don't choke things out, you know, you got to just keep everything open. And like I've learned, you know, no expectation, just appreciation has been like a huge sort of mantra for me for a long time, of just letting go of any expectations, because then you can't get really let down, you know, you're just open to whatever comes, and that's cool. you know?
No expectation, just appreciation.
It's a good one.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
We've heard some gems today, you know? It's like,
man.
this is, I love that.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And I used to only apply it in certain areas of my life. And then I told that to a friend of mine, and then I was griping about something in the car, and he was like, hey man, no expectation, just appreciation. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just like, oh yeah, why am I not doing that here? Like, why don't I blanket use that in every aspect of my life? But I was only focusing it on like my personal life and not necessarily my career. And I was still holding on to certain expectations in my career and my work stuff. And then, yeah, learning to let that stuff go and yeah, what did you say? The impermanence of it all?
That, I don't know, it's just like when you speak about this, like it just sounds from a very mindful perspective. Like, I guess because we've had those conversations about life and not just the performance, not just the success, but the inner success, the peace, the, like, you know, if we don't have our health and our sanity, because, you know, it's like we've been working like during this strike, and I feel so blessed that StoryHive and second 100%. Show this year I did a play and doing voiceover stuff and switched agents and, you know, getting your help to sharpen my work more and just fine tune and being willing to learn. And it can be such a thing because I can see myself coming up against my own ego. Like when I came to audit your class, and I was like, oh my God, when I make mistakes, everyone's gonna see.
What?
I know, in my brain, this is what I'm thinking. When I make mistakes, everyone's gonna see. You know, this is my brain. I know. This is what's
it's
like going
all
on.
about making mistakes. That's what it's all about. It's all about making mistakes. Make more mistakes. Fail more. The more you fail, the closer you will get to success. Like that's what I've had to learn, but also that I try to tell everybody all the time, like perfection is toxic and doesn't even exist. Like all you can do is try to make something cool and interesting. Everything else is just noise. Like make mistakes. Make mistakes. There's amazing interviews with Willem Dafoe where he's like, you know, now I just show up and I try to fuck it up as big as I can. Like I love that. And I've started doing that. I want space to fall on my face and make as many mistakes as possible because that's how you learn and that's how you grow and that's how you move forward. You know, if you're afraid to make mistakes, then you're not going to go anywhere.
I know. I just need to share that out loud, right? Like I'm sharing it with you. I'm sharing it with our audience. And that's like my own inner critic, right? Like the perfection.
I didn't know you felt that way.
No. It's like I came in, I enjoyed it. I love working with you. I learned so much from you. But I could feel like inside of me, and I was like, okay, you know, it's definitely a safe space when I'm working with you. And I feel so comfortable because I think as like you were mentioning earlier, the importance of having mentors, you know, and like I feel like we're each other's like, Napoleon Hill talks about it in his book, Think and Grow Rich, having your mastermind. I feel like we have a bit of mastermind going on, but I can sense my own inner ego, the critic inside of me is like, oh my God, I make mistakes. All these people are gonna see, like, you know, how I'm effing up. See, I didn't swear, Julian.
I swore, sorry, that was my bad.
I'm sorry, Bentley. No. But I wanna share this openly with you because I think artists, whether you're an actor or a performer, or you could be a painter, because if you have, you know, maybe it's age thing or getting this too loud, it's the freeing up, right? Like when I work with you, you know, not that I'm like hyping up like his coaching so much, all of a sudden you're gonna be so busy, you're like, I don't have time for you, Zara, because everyone watched this interview, they're like, okay, what is his email? You know, but one of the things that I'm learning from you, Matt, is like I see, like when I came to your class, it's like, yes, relax, like loosen up in the body more. And I can feel like how I get that in my head. When it's me being a host or being on a stage, I think it's a difference, Zara.
Yeah.
Auditioning as the performer, I get in this. And then when other people are watching me, I think that is the thing I need to get over, is the making mistakes. So I'm outing myself by sharing that.
That's great. That's great. And also, you know, sort of like, and at least even if it's for, and like as an exercise to start, but like, I think you're right. We do differentiate things. We're like, oh, well, this is one thing. And I went through that when I was transitioning from being a host and back into acting. And I thought it was like different somehow. And it is, but it also isn't. And, you know, this is all like this is, you know, woo-woo stuff. But
No,
like,
but
it's true, but it's true, right? Like, acting is just you hopefully being really authentic in whatever situation you're in, a version of yourself, right? So, you know, try not to differentiate Zara who is like hosting and on set versus like Zara who's acting, because it's all the same thing and it's all coming from here, right? And that's what people want to see, right?
And I think that's because I've done so much of this as me being like, you know, right now, I think when I go into Alistair, who told me about you, and he's like, you need to go see Matt. I'm like, who is this guy? He's like, no, you need to go, like, me. And I'm like,
Shout out Alistair Abel.
I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I know, not that I know, but I was like, who is this person? Okay, Google. I'm like, okay, all right, let's see, go meet him. I'm like, okay, that was pretty good. Go again a few more times. I was like, yeah, every time I would leave, whether I would book the job or not, which I didn't, but I felt like so alive. I'm not saying this like tonight inflate your ego, but I literally was like, wow, that felt so good as a performer, because I felt we fine-tuned, I was open, and I felt really comfortable, which is, you know, I don't know if directing is something you want to go in, but I felt like you really know how to bring things out of people and like shake me out of my own head to like.
A lot of that is also just, I think sometimes a lot of what I do is just give people permission to, I think again, people will have a certain idea of what it should be or how it should look like or whatever, and then I'm like, well, what if it isn't that? You know, and they're like, oh, I can think about it like that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, why not? Is that interesting to you? Go ahead. And then it kind of gives people permission to let go of like whatever that thing is that they're holding on to, and then just be themselves and do what they think is interesting, right?
Yeah.
I find a lot of what I do is sort of like, in a weird way, people are just looking for permission to do the thing.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, in Vancouver, there's like a lot of great teachers. I've studied with a few over the years. And then I do think, like, I'm again talking my inner stuff, sharing here, is I took a break from going to class because I found myself getting so in my head. And it's been really nice coming and working with you on the scenes, on my tapes and auditions, because it just gets me out of that. And the way you create space, Matt, like, you know, it's like a genuine compliment to you and how you are, because I feel like as a coach or director, maybe one day, I don't know, some people who work a lot as actors are not able to perhaps like translate that, but it's like you're able to create this space where I was like, oh my God, I want to come and study with you so I can better these things and get this information on a regular basis. So you made it a very comfortable and safe space to explore and play.
Awesome.
Which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm super glad that we've connected. Thank you, Alistair Abel.
So we were speaking about success earlier. I would like to know what success means to you.
Oh man, that's another one that sort of has shifted and evolved, you know, throughout time. What does success look like for me now? Working on projects that inspire me and I find to be interesting, and stretching myself in different ways as a performer or in the industry and learning about new things. As I said, writing scripts has been a really interesting new sort of avenue for me over the past few years. Well, it started in COVID. It was like one of my COVID pivots. Directing is something I'm very interested in and am working towards getting off the ground. So I think it's like having a full success to me right now is having a very sort of full creative life, surrounded by people that are joyful and that I love and that are inspiring to me, and yeah, being able to, go on trips when I want, because I love travel. Travel I find to be, that's part of how I unwind. Even if it's pop down to Mexico for 4 days, or go to Whistler for 3 days, or go to Tofino. Even just having a couple days to just decompress and get away from the noise a little bit. That's really important to me. And yeah, just having a full creative life. That's kind of where I've come out at as success for myself, and I'm achieving that, I'd say. So, yeah, it's things are good, all things considered.
Achieving that and also inspiring others around you, whether through friendship or in class. And this, even though we're live streaming right now, this is going to be broadcast in December. So is there anything we can look out for that we can be like, hey, watch Matt in this show, in this movie coming up?
Yeah, I've surprisingly, we had the strike here, but I was really lucky that I was working right up until the SAG strike, and we were working on a film that we were able to finish it. But there's a film called Angela's Shadow. I'm not sure if that's going to be a working title. I don't know enough about it yet, but or when it's even going to come out yet. But it's an Indigenous writer-director, and it was a really exciting and challenging project for me to work on. It's a period piece. It was just a very challenging role, and probably the hardest I've worked on anything in my career. So I'm excited to see how it comes together. Again, fingers crossed that it does well, and we're hoping it gets into festivals, and we'll be promoting it. I'm assuming like springtime, but yeah, I'm very excited for that project because it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. So yeah, we'll see how it comes out.
I can't wait to see. One last question before we let you go.
Yeah.
We've discussed so many things under the sun. What advice would you give to aspiring performers out there? Performers or artists or actors who are watching?
Yeah, I have so many little tidbits that I pass on to people, but if it's something that you really want to do it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be waiting for opportunities. Find ways. I think Robert Redford said, find ways to act more than you're not acting. But if it's hosting, if it's painting, if it's directing, whatever it is, just start doing it. Find time anywhere you can and make it an obsession, and just go after it. You can always course correct. You don't have to get it right off the bat. Your first draft of your movie is going to be terrible. Know that. Just barf it out. Get it on the page and get things moving. Then you can go back and edit, and you can make changes along the way, but you have to take that first step and create action for yourself and start moving the needle and getting things going. And that's when you create flow and you create motion, and then everything starts to happen, and the path through the trees will reveal itself. But you have to get going, and you have to really move on stuff, because I think a lot of people get sort of paralyzed by fear, and so they don't actually end up doing anything. They just talk about it.
And do it despite yourself, despite the fears, doing the work. It's, there's sometimes I've gotten auditions or scripts, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do with this.
Yeah.
So, and then I show up and I'm like, I don't know. But, being open and willing to fail, and for me to getting out of this, quieting this and, You know, there's been so many gems in this conversation. I'm so grateful to have you in my life as a friend, and you
so
truly
much.
inspire me. Ladies and
I feel the same
gentlemen,
way.
Matthew Kevin Anderson, you know, will be tagging
Zara
him.
Durrani. Yes.
Make sure to
Congratulations on the show and all the amazing things that you make happen. You make all those things happen yourself. You are such a hustler and a hard worker, and it's inspiring to see, and your presence is great, and your energy is great, and your drive is great, and congratulations on all of this.
Thank you. I
Thanks for
truly
having me.
appreciate you. And, you know, it's that mirroring, right? Like, I'm just so grateful to have this community between, you know, my camera op, between you, and surrounding myself with individuals where we all lift each other like a tribe, you know, and having those friends around you where it's like let me support you and you help me. It's this community because, you know, we're not islands. We rise together.
100%.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you felt inspired, make sure to get in touch. Until next time, I'm your host, Zara Durrani, and you're watching On Location, brought to you by StoryHive.